You know, it's kind of crazy. I never actually built my own custom keyboard for me to actually use all of the time. I've been experimenting with the hobby through various different keyboards. I built my first 65%er and I liked it. It was nice, but I never really planned the entire thing out, and it really doesn't say me. I built a 60% keyboard mainly because I like them and they're an interesting form factor, but not to use. You see, as someone who edits and creates YouTube videos, I kind of need certain keys that I can't find on those. And building a full-size keyboard is just extremely cost prohibitive. So I had to find the perfect middle ground. How can I build a keyboard that is both smaller than a normal full-size keyboard and perfect for my use case? This is where the TKL comes in. It's just like a normal keyboard, except you just take that calculator that was right there on the side and you just yeet it off of it. And with this base in hand, we shall make the perfect keyboard for me. Let's get right into it after our intro. Today, we're going to be building a TKL keyboard. Now, this is going to be built off of the Drop Control base. And the reason that we picked the control is, well, it's readily available, easy to get a hold of, and shipped within a reasonable amount of time, or so I thought, as apparently I had entered a group buy for this one and had to wait about a month for it to get here. But when it finally got here, I was pretty excited. You know, we got a full aluminum body with an RGB diffuser plate in the middle here, along with some steel plates that work alongside magnets to create some sort of angle adjustment on the keyboard. This thing comes with a PCB and is pretty much ready to go outside of the box, but we're gonna make some modifications to it right off the bat. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna fill some of the empty parts of the case. And luckily with this one, there's really not much empty in it. This case is what's known as an integrated plate design case. Essentially, the plate and the case merge together to create one solid piece. Because of that, well, there really doesn't need to be much free room for noise to bounce around in, but there are some holes which we're gonna go ahead and fill with some foam. Now, this is just some simple shelf liner that we are using in place of any other type of foam because, well, it's already got holes, it's easy to cut, and it's super cheap. Not to mention, we don't really have that much room in the bottom of this case, so this is going to help us fill out just that little bit of hollowness that's going to be in there. Now, once we have it cut to size, it's really a matter of figuring out how this cake comes back together, which took a bit longer than I would like to admit. Essentially, the best way to do it is to actually put the plate down first, then fix the PCB to the plate, then put the RGB diffuser, then put the foam on the PCB and align the steel pieces, and then screw on the back. I know that sounds really weird to do it backwards like that, but that really is how it all just kind of works. With that though, our case is ready to go. From here though, it's going to be our switches. I actually used the Halo Clears in my last build and I really did like how they felt. I just thought they were a little stiff. So I went ahead with Halo Trues, which actually have about 5 less grams of actuation force. Instead of 65 grams of actuation force, we have 60. Now these are tactical switches made by Drop and are actually a component of the Holy Panda switch. For those of you who aren't really initiated, tactical switches are kind of like clicky switches in which they have a tactical bump when pressed, but they don't actually make a clicking noise since the mechanisms to make the click have been removed. Essentially, they're a bit more silent than a clicky, and you still kind of get that response that you expect when pressing down on a mechanical keyboard key. Placing the switches into the PCB are super simple because we have what's known as a hot swap PCB. Essentially, all we have to do is line up the holes and press, and bam, we're good to go. Now we're just gonna and put them all in all at once. That looks pretty good. Essentially, with all of our switches in, we are good to start putting on keycaps. Now, our keycaps are actually something special here. You see, I was looking for a nice green, black, green and gray type keycap set, and I just couldn't find one. There just wasn't one available. So I made my own. This is a combination of exactly 2 keycap sets. One set is from drop.com and it is the Skylight, Slate, Shine Through keycaps. These are OEM profile keycaps, so it's actually really easy to mix them with other types of keycaps. For our green keycaps, we actually used the Razer green replacement keycaps. Fortunately for us, both of these keycaps have the same profile, being OEM, and somehow it looks like they were made in the same factory because the legends are also exactly the same, which is, well, kind of difficult to do at shine throughs. Not only that, they're also both made from PBT, so we're gonna have no difference in feel between each keycap. From there, I also decided to add in one little special piece, a little bit of flavor to our soup of keycaps here, and that is an artisan keycap that looks like a Game Boy. Yeah, this thing is pretty adorable. It's actually CNC milled aluminum and costs just as much as every other key on this keyboard combined. But with that, we had our one-of-a-kind set that is ready to go, a nice green and gray colorway. I did want to mix in some black, but I just couldn't figure out how to get it to work in there, so we just decided to not do that. So let's go ahead and put in our keycaps. We're just gonna boop, there we go, not keycaps in. Awesome. And I mean, look at it. This thing looks amazing. And I mean, listen to how it sounds. All right, that's okay. It's missing something, you know. Something's not right about this, you know. It almost feels like it needs something to take it to that next level, and I just don't know what it. I see. Lube. We need to lube it.
Do it.
That's right. We're going to need to lube these switches. And I decided in my infinite wisdom to actually live stream me doing this for the first time ever. Yeah. It went pretty well. Essentially, all we have to do is open up the switches, separate the springs, stems, top housing, and bottom housing. For tactical switches, usually you would use something else, but all I had on hand was Crytox 205G0. That being said, apparently for Halos, it's actually completely okay to use Crytox 205G0. In fact, actually, it's not all that uncommon, so accidental win on my part. From there, we're going to have to actually go ahead and lube the bottom housing. We lube this part over here. This is like the slidey bit where the slidey parts touch each other. You just want to make sure that there's no friction between these. You don't really want to go in the hole with this one because the stem actually provides some of the tactility, and you also don't really want to lube the legs because again, you're going to mess up how the switch feels. We're also going to want to lube this part of the stem because that's where it slides, you know, reduce that friction, make it a little bit better for everyone, right? After that, we're going to have to lube our springs. Now, I found out later that there's something called bag lubing where you just put some lube in a bag and you just shake it up with all the springs in it. That would have been much more efficient than what I did because I actually hand lubed these and I just kind of got it everywhere and just made sure that it wasn't conflicting with the spring. You know, there's no such thing as too much lube, I don't think, right? So after we got that together, we're pretty much done. Actually, we don't have to do anything to the top housing. I don't know why you would lube the top housing, but yeah. So all we have to do now is reassemble it, and that's a switch. Now we need to do that a lot more, like 66 more times actually. So I'm just gonna, there we go. All the switches are lubed. Actually, the stream died before I finished lubing because it took so long to lube them. But we also did one other secret ingredient to each of these switches to make them better. We filmed them. Yeah, I didn't know what the heck this stuff was anyway when I ordered it off Amazon, but like I found out it's a good thing to do. It's like this little like film that goes between the switch top housing and the switch bottom housing, and it makes things tighter. So, you know, we made things tighter and we lubed them up, and now we got better switches. And yeah, we have to mod the stabilizers. Now, stabilizer modding is a weird thing. I've seen a couple of videos about it, and honestly, I still don't know if I'm doing it right. We did what's known as the Band-Aid mod. We tried to do what's known as the Holy mod, but the stabilizers don't work with that type of mod. So yeah. And then we tried two different types of Band-Aid mod, where one we put Band-Aids inside the case and another one where we would just wrap the ends. I ended up like taking away like most of the Band-Aid and leaving just a little bit of Band-Aid on it wrapped around there, and then lubing that whole thing up and then putting that in there instead, and it seemed to work for the most part. We also kind of packed our space bar because again, hollow keys they don't sound as good. So what we did was we used some poster board foam and cut that into size and double side tape inside the space bar, specifically avoiding the little stem pieces on the inside. After that was done, all we had to do was reassemble the whole board, and we're good, right? Wrong. We are not good yet, because as I was typing on it, I realized something. I did not think that the spacebar was tactical enough. And that's when it dawned on me. I like the other keys at 60 grams, but I really liked the stabilized keys at 65 grams. Here's the thing though, I do still have Halo switches, so I use my Halo Trues in those places. So we took those switches apart, filmed and lubed them, and then put them into the board, and it looks a little something like this. And honestly, now we're getting somewhere. And as I typed on this keyboard that has now been lubed, filmed, and is completely modified and custom to me, I realized something. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing in this hobby.